Welcome back to the show, my fellow exploring Americans. For today's guest, we have Cindy Cheta. Cindy is an entrepreneur, business owner, as well as financial, health, and wellness mentor. She was born in Fiji to a family of entrepreneurs and immigrated to Vancouver, British Columbia with her parents. She's the founder of the company Inkredible Business Solutions and therefore that founded and also founded and owned a restaurant business called Unforgettable Pizza and Pasta in Vancouver for 10 years. In 2015, after 28 years of working in the medical field, she quit to become a licensed financial health and wellness mentor. She's passionate about in serving and assisting people and helping them create their life by design. She's also been involved with the Aries Samaj Society of British Columbia, which the Cheta family established in the early 80s. Cindy is an extraordinary immigrant entrepreneur with determination and perseverance, and I'm glad to have her on the show. Cindy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me here today.
Hey, Cindy, thank you so much for taking the time to come on this show. I know that you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're a financial health and wellness mentor. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about you yourself and how you got started?
Well, I think it was because my father and their brothers were always entrepreneurs. They started off back in Fiji where they were fixing bikes. And when they migrated to Canada, Vancouver, British Columbia, they all had mechanic shops. So I believe it's in my blood to be an entrepreneur. However, my mother didn't think I would, or even was encouraged for me to be any type of entrepreneur. I think really she thought that I'd be just a legal secretary and that was okay. Um, but in hindsight, I had it in my blood and I saw things that other people at my age didn't. And so, like, even at the age of 20, I bought my first property. And again, I had shocked myself and my family in doing that. So, as people know, and I think everybody has one of these, it's called the black sheep of the family. So, it was in my blood, and I tried many multi level marketing businesses. And I found out that I was quite the one percenters. I'd always be successful, but my heart felt for those people that were not as disciplined or consistent in actually getting to the level that I was at. Yeah. So I really
So,
believe it was in my blood, definitely.
so Cindy, like from our culture, we normally have like this thing where most of our parents want us to be engineers and doctors, like like from an Indian background and everything. But in your case, you were an entrepreneur like right from the beginning, right? So what was it about you from like a small age that was different, and what was your mindset that made you think differently from the others?
So I would say that I saw a lot of my father in particular make a lot of mistakes, and there were things that I learned from those mistakes not to do. He was very trusting, and I knew at an early age that we should always have documentation, legal representation, because we came from a family that was very open and kind. And moving to America, it was very different. Like our word was not enough. And so that was one of the things I noticed how my father had lost a lot of money. Not to say that I haven't lost any money in my dealings. However, you sure learn fast when you lose money and whatnot. So I know that entrepreneurship and business is the way to go. And whereas I found even working in the medical field, I would make money, but at the end of the day, I was super exhausted. And I'm like, there's more to life than this.
Yeah. So Cindy, like what was like your overall vision and goal regarding like your career, like from like the late teens to like now, like or and did it evolve, did your vision and goal for your life and like for business evolve over a period of time?
Yes. So when you're talking about teenage life, I always thought I was be a physiotherapist. But because when I was 17 years old, I was in a very bad car accident. And so I used to go to all these different healthcare providers and found that the physio just kind of left me there and was not treating me as a whole, but rather just treating the item that I was hurting on. And so my vision got disrupted because I'm like, I don't want to be a physiotherapist. I'm not helping people. So I think even from a younger age, I was always, it was very kind in helping the elderly, the newborns. I was the eldest grandchild, eldest in my family, and everybody looked up to me in the sense that I had these skills. So already I felt like I was molding into my leadership, and then buying my first investment at 20 years old, then trying these different businesses. But yet my parents said, get a good job. So I was kind of struggling between what is it that I have this burning desire of, but yet I'm supposed to be very disciplined what my parents want. I'm sure you can relate to what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I can like basically there's a lot of circumstantial pressure, and I know like from the culture that you and I both came from, like it is there's a strong culture to like to conform with like what everybody's doing regarding the career choices and everything. It's pretty different to think in entrepreneurial terms, but yeah, but as we come to America, like it's just a different culture altogether. But
Yeah.
related to this, Cindy, is like what was like your motivational factor that pushed you to start businesses? You know, like a lot of people they think of starting businesses, but they never end up starting a business or they're too afraid to do so. Like what pushed you to go ahead and take the risks?
I believe because there's so much out of life, and I always love serving people. And I felt as though when I was working that 9 to 5 industry and job, that why is it that my paycheck's this much and I work so much this much? And so when I took another take about business kept coming up in my life. I think I was attracting it honestly because I was trying all these multi-level marketing businesses, but I failed at it. And I think I failed at it is because I was the only one that can see the vision and nobody else. There was no support. Um, and then moving forward, I had an opportunity to purchase brick and mortar business, and that was the hardest business I could ever do was a restaurant business. However, I was very, very successful at it. And again, I looked at my paycheck and I looked at what I was doing at the the 9 to 5 job, and it really surpassed it. And then I learned from my accountant all these tax benefits. It's like, oh, this is how we make money now, right? So that was my first real success in business was when I had the brick and mortar business. The only downfall was is I was the only one doing it right. So now trying to replace that was very difficult.
Wait, Cindy, let me get this straight. So you were in the medical field and you were doing the 9 to 5, and on top of that, you were doing this business. Like, how are you juggling all of this together? Like, how are you doing because a lot of people like complain, like, okay, I'm too tired. I came from a 9 to 5, like I don't have enough time or energy to do it. Like, how did you manage to do a business while doing a 9 to 5 job, if you don't mind
I
asking?
have so much passion for life and living and for people. I think that was giving me the drive to do it. Yeah, my body would say I'm tired. I would schedule in rest time. So I have learned over the years what my every week I sit down with my objectives, what I want to accomplish from the week, and go forth and multiply from that, ensuring that I'm grounded. So that's where my spirituality comes in as being an Aries Samaj. I was grounded in the mornings to either pray or listen to meditation or even sit in silence, uh, also to stretch, just to be quiet by myself. Setting the tone right for the day is super important in anything you do, and especially when you're an entrepreneur, because you got to be sharp and you got to be flexible and you got to like be like on point all the time. And again, delegating. I learned how to delegate and express my voice because as a little girl, you were meant to be seen but not heard. And that was a very difficult task for me to learn throughout the years. Yeah.
Wow, because yeah, like what I was as we were saying, right? It's really hard. Like 9 to 5 itself is pretty draining, but when you're trying to
Mhm.
do a business on top of that, or like in your case, like you're making it like successful, it takes a lot of effort, and it basically takes up, I mean, pretty much I would say like 70 to 80 hours on the hiring, right? And so yeah, that's pretty intense. But Cindy, what is like the biggest lesson you learned during your entrepreneurial and business journey?
Biggest lesson. Wow. There's so many lessons. Being authentic. I found that a lot of people when I was growing up were very greedy, selfish, and I never wanted that. And I thought that was my stigma about business was, oh, it's only for the rich, it's only for the greedy, it's only for the selfish. Because I always saw that my dad always tried, and then people would always mess him up. And I didn't like that. It really bothered me. And so I always felt like I want to be kind, caring, be authentic, have integrity, definitely. But then I also learned that people took advantage of me as well. So there were some things that I needed to alter because of what I viewed when growing up. Then I got smarter. So the biggest lesson is you can't believe everybody, but to treat everybody the same until proven guilty, if that makes sense.
Like innocent until proven guilty, right?
There you go.
No,
Exactly.
I see what you're saying. Like a lot of people, they start off like being really nice and kind, and then a lot of people take advantage of them, and slowly they become selfish in the process. So it's kind of like a small it's like a kind of like a delicate balance where you should be kind, but at the same time, don't be a pushover and stand your ground, and
Hmm.
don't let people take advantage of you. And it's a fine line altogether.
Indeed. Indeed. And who do you trust? Who do you know? But I think over the years, I've learned to know who I am, and I'm very comfortable in my skin to know intuitively if this person is for real or not. But again, being very non-judgmental and treating everybody the same as much as possible.
Yeah. So Cindy, like, what was the biggest challenge you faced during your time in business? Like, whether it was for your restaurant business or for like in the process of starting Incredible Solutions, and like, what did you do to overcome it?
So I'm always practicing my assertive skills because I found that there sometimes people come and are very demanding. And I just say to myself, well, this guy's having a bad day or a girl's having a rough time in their life and they're just taking it out on me. And when I know that I'm better than that, and so I would just listen. So my skills in listening overcame the and when there was hardship or hard clients. And then I also found the way I overcame my challenge of expressing myself. So assertiveness and expressing myself were two challenges I had. And over time, just practicing in front of the mirror and then in public is, and I'm still practicing it definitely.
That's awesome, Cindy. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people, like, when they're starting a business, they're afraid of financial risk, right? And like, we all know that, like, it's financial risk comes with entrepreneurship and business. But in your case, did you feel like there was like a there was a challenge when it came to losing money, like, or taking like a venture where you could potentially lose a lot of money? And like, what was your attitude and mindset around the risk of like the business not succeeding and then you losing money in the process?
Right. Well, I do suggest to people that if they're thinking about a business venture, make sure you have double that amount of money that's in the bank account. And I felt that strain during coronavirus because I had overtaken Incredible Business Solutions. So it was a risk that I was taking. And I did lose and break even. And only till recently have I started making money since that time. So again, it comes back to daily habits, grounding myself, and just having faith in God and the universe, and knowing that everything will get paid. And some days I'm like, how did this happen? But again, it's believing in myself. I was never worried about money because I feel that is a negative attraction. And that's again where my spirituality and faith comes in is like, this too will pass, but have faith, everything will be taken care of. So just your mental attitude was really key.
So Cindy, this is one thing when I talked to you in person, I was very fascinated about is like your faith and its application in business, right? Like, so a lot of people have a conception that business is all materialistic and it's all about the money and everything. There's no spirituality involved in it. But how did your faith and your spiritual practice help you succeed in your business endeavors?
I find when I'm not doing my daily practices and that things go off. the denomination. And so therefore I feel that grounding yourself first thing in the morning and having, ever since as a little girl, having that basics of the spirituality and faith and mentorship of knowing that you should self-care first is so key. So that's how I knew that when I'm not doing my daily practices, then I'm falling off or something is not right. And I totally feel it mentally, physically, emotionally. It really is all connected.
No, I mean, I see what you're saying, Cindy, because in my case, if I need to meditate like twice a day, and it is because I'm meditating twice a day and I'm having this spiritual practice that I end up basically being stoic and not attached to a lot of things. There's a lot of things that go on in your life, and it's probably out of your control. But what we can do is stay grounded in the center and then basically be stoic and non-attached. And what I noticed in meditation is that you achieve a state of stillness, and then you let your thoughts, your restless thoughts, just go in and out. And then you basically become calm. And then you can take that calmness with you to the to the rest of the day. But that's something that I
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, it's funny that you said that because a couple of weeks ago after my meditation, I got super excited because a lot of people wake up saying FFF. What came out of my meditation was five F's: uh, faith, family, fitness, finance, and future self. So it's amazing what you can do when you turn off your devices and just be within.
Yeah, I mean, like we live in an era where there's just like so many distractions that for most of human history, like there were no distractions. There's more of like a sense of peace, and you need to have that sense of peace to achieve things. But Cindy, I know that you're an immigrant from Fiji, and you have like Indian culture in you, and then you came to Vancouver. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about the culture shock that you had to experience, and and the way and how you went about starting a business in like in a land that is considered foreign?
Okay, so I was very young at the time, and I had a culture shock where I couldn't even speak. And then throughout school, there was a lot of prejudice because we were very minority. However, my it was my father that started business, and that's where I witnessed how he bought cars and sold cars, and then he had a brick and mortar business as well. So we were well to do in that sense that he always had money to take us once a week to like Pancake House or something. And then I think when I was a preteen, uh, business something that I was aware of, but I wasn't sure that I would get into. And again, as I mentioned, I was going to go to UBC to become a physiotherapist, but instead I always attracted these multi-level marketing businesses. And so I knew I had something burning inside me. But once again, because of the cultural, we were taught to go to school and get a good education and get a 9 to 5 job. However, I knew when I did the 9 to 5 job that I felt so constrained that no, there's more to life than this. I should be enjoying my life while I'm young and work less hours. So that's where the business sense was always in my brain.
Yeah, like the one thing that I noticed that is like really interesting is that you basically overcame a language barrier, right? And that's one of the hardest things to overcome, and then still succeed in like succeed in whatever you're doing. And so basically, yeah, that's one of the hardest things ever. I mean, most people don't realize how hard it is. So my question to you is like, how did you even like overcome that in the first place, and then go ahead to like basically understand the culture enough to like basically succeed in whatever you're doing?
Well, oftentimes when your mother says no, sometimes you're like, why? Because she doesn't give you a reason. So I just wanted to do it, right? So I think a lot of people have been told in their life, no, you can't do that. For example, um, mom always said, no, why are you traveling? You're a woman. You can't travel by yourself. I'm like, well, when am I going to travel? When I'm retired or when I'm old, when I can't move and stuff? So the best education I think I could have given myself was the gift of travel. So when I did work and when I get a position, I would say, oh, by the way, if I'm a supervisor for this position, if there's a seat sale, I'm going. And they were like, what? And so when I used to take my sick days off on purpose, and they knew I was going on vacation. I think the best education I gave myself was that. And I knew in order for me to have more vacation time, business was the way to do it. And nowadays, I am wanting to pivot and do stuff online so I can go anywhere in the world with a computer and still be making a passive income somewhere else in the world and enjoying my life.
No,
So
I
I
mean,
just overcame it. I just went and did it. I just did it. That's it. I didn't even think about it. I just knew I had the drive and fire within me. And if I had no support, then just do it. Like, at least if I failed, I knew that at least I tried. I don't want the regret ever in my life that I wanted to do something and I didn't do it.
wow, Cindy, that's really interesting. 'Cause most people have fear, and then they basically do want to, like they give all the reasons why they don't want to do it. But in your case, you're always looking for the positives, and you're pushing ahead and doing so. And like, yeah, it's all about ultimately what I tell in this podcast a lot, and the common theme in guests is that it's all about mindset. If you have a positive mindset and a certain way of looking at things, you're going to succeed no matter what. And so in your case, you overcame a language barrier, which is pretty amazing. Like the fact that your mom said don't travel, but you said I'm going to travel anyways. That's it's just like a type of taking initiative, and that's what you need to do to succeed in business. You have to take initiative because nobody's going to do it for you. You have to like do it yourself, you
Oh,
know?
definitely, definitely.
But
Yes.
Cindy, like, what do you think of like so like our school systems, like even like whether it's in like India or like in the Americas, like they don't really teach you how to do entrepreneurship and business. Like, what do you think should people across the Americas do to learn the techniques and strategies to do entrepreneurship and business from your perspective? Like, how should they go about that?
Personally, I think it should start with the finances. And if the school system can actually teach the children to not only balance their checkbook, but also that business is not just about um, franchises and whatnot. It's more to that. It's about leverage. It's about apprenticeship. It's all about how do you, be partners in a good way. There's so much more that we can teach the children. And I think from there, they can decide if business is for them or even going into the business ship and having days where people can see why business is good. Because oftentimes people don't realize all the tax write-offs is very good to have. And that's even having a small business, even if you're working, it's good to have.
No, like I do, the reason I'm asking is because like you and I both know, like in the like in Indian culture, for instance, right? You have a situation where the mentality of the parents is, okay, you're gonna get a job, go become an engineer, doctor, and then like go to school for these many years, and then have like respect and status and all that stuff. But the mentality that should be taught, I think, is knowing how to monetize a product or service, and then basically focus on obtaining financial freedom by starting their own business and being independent. And it has to be like a shift in thinking, as you mentioned, from the children itself, you know? Because yeah, that's that. Well, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, yeah, I don't have many thoughts about it. I think it's really in you and who you surround yourself amongst, definitely. And again, if you have the passion and desire to do it, just my suggestion is just do it, because if you don't, then you'll regret it.
So, Cindy, one question that I did have wanted to ask you, since like you came as an immigrant from Fiji, is how do you now that you know all these different cultures, and I think you mentioned that you traveled, right? What is the one thing you understand about humanity in general, like from all the different cultures? Like, what is the similarities and as well as the differences from your perspective, and like the way they see the world?
We're all cut from the same cloth, and I just embrace everything and everyone, especially, women, because there's a lot of people in our cultures and many cultures that are still seen as up and down, like, that's not quite equal. And I still feel like women have a lot ways to go. So I totally embrace women and mental health, that it shouldn't be such a hush thing and to be more open for sure.
No, I agree with you. Like in the past 100 years, like women have made great strides in business and entrepreneurship, and the world has changed drastically in the last 100 years,
Hmm.
and it's pretty incredible. But Cindy, can you tell me, the audience, a little bit more about Incredible Solutions and like how you started it and the premise of it and what it does?
So the basis of that has been here for 20 years, and about 5 years ago, I was helping some people that were working here, and then I had sold some investments, and I wanted to do something with it instead of buying property. I decided to take over because I was hearing what the community at large wanted to see in the space, and so during Corona. I was able to pivot and put an access point here. So generally, it's an ink and toner place, and then, of course, it keeps building because it's a one-stop shop for many things. You want a house, you want a car, you just come here kind of thing. So it's really a one-stop deal. And I love supporting the community events and so on and so forth. So I'm just very passionate about helping people and making sure that they don't get ripped off and they're getting the best bang for their buck.
Okay, that's awesome. And one of the questions I did want to ask you is about the Aries Samaj. If you could tell the audience a little bit more about the foundations of the Aries Samaj and what it does and its application in spirituality.
Yes, of course. That's like a whole interview in itself, definitely. But as I can explain it to the worldwide, it is a non-denominational spiritual group that basically you do unto others as you want to be done to you. There is no segregation. Men and women are equal. Even women can be priests, and so on and so forth. I actually will be writing something in English so everybody can enjoy the basics of Arya Samaj and the Hawans. That's the prayers that we pray around fires, and in the book in English as well as in Hindi. And yeah, so there's so much more I can tell you about the history, etc. But it would be too long for me to do that right now. But the basics is yoga, spirituality, and life and giving.
Yeah, I think one of the major things about Extraordinary America, like, yeah, it's about finances and business, but it's also about that practical application of spirituality into business. Because I feel like, like you have the West and you have the East, and the West is all about like finance and business. The East is it went too much in the spiritual direction. And sometimes you need a balance and all of that. And so, yeah, basically, no, I agree with that. So, Cindy, can you tell the audience a little bit more about how they can connect with you and also get to know more about Incredible Solutions and what you're doing and how can the audience connect?
Yes, so I am able to be connected by a telephone number. I really like picking up the phone and talking to people, and or the link, Incredible Business Solutions at gmails.com. And remember, incredible is spelled with the INK. Our phone number here is 604-215-9988. Email is the best way to contact me, definitely.
Okay, Cindy. Cindy, thank you so much for taking the time to do this podcast. Like you have a lot of perseverance and determination. You
Thank
came
you.
to the Americas as an immigrant and like you have like you are an inspiration to the world. And I was honored to have you on the show, and I would definitely want to have you back at a later time.
Absolutely. Anything for you, Cosmos. You're a wonderful man and keep up the goodness.
Thank you. And I want to conclude this show by telling my fellow extraordinary Americans that look, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us, and it's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time, bye for now. Hey there, everyone. Thank